Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2025 release Shadow of God. It's a Shudder original and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, April 11th. So this is a no spoiler review. Now I'm going to tell you off the bat, when it comes to low budget, especially extremely low budget film, which is typically what Shudder originals are, I really think people need to just give them a shot. And I think this film is a perfect example of one that you really should jump onto Shudder if you have Shudder and make sure you watch it, support it. I think maybe it might end up being available for rental video on demand or Fandango at home or stuff like that. Support these types of films. That said, I did overall like this film. I am recommending this for people to check out. Now, I know that there are plenty of people out there who are kind of like, if it's not like a flashier, high budget film, I don't really want to watch it. Now, typically, the people who are watching my reviews are not those people, but I would encourage you to encourage other people you know to give films like this a shot. So, anyway, this one, Shadow of God, is directed by Michael Peterson, who did Lloyd the Conqueror, Knuckleball, and Department of Paranormal Affairs. I've not seen any of that before, but based off of what I've seen from a directorial standpoint with this film, I would like to see what else Peterson has done. Written by Tim Cairo, who wrote Low Life, Dark Nature, and Off Ramp. I think I saw Low Life and enjoyed it a decent amount. I'm not 100% sure because I also think there's like 2 films that came out within the past 10 years with the name of Low Life. So I don't know which one I saw. I'd have to go back and look at that one. But yeah. Canadian film. This is a Canadian film. Again, Shudder original coming Friday, April 11th. Synopsis of this one. It starts out with an exorcism. Shadow of God would indicate that it has some religious aspects to the film. And then if you see the trailer or you see the cover art for the film, it is very obvious that this is like a possession, maybe exorcism, whatever type film. Although it is more than that. I will say it is more than that. So it's basically about the main character who is an exorcist for a church who things don't go well in the opening sequence, as is a lot of times the case with these types of films. They kind of want to set it up with something more intense, something to really grab your attention, which I think they do a good job of doing with the opening sequence. But he is it's mainly about him, and the main character of him gets into his past, why he is the way he is, the situation he ends up dealing with, which I don't want to say too much about because I don't want to ruin much about this film, because there are a lot of, I wouldn't necessarily say there are a lot of like big surprises, but you're not necessarily going to know where this film is going, and I would like people to go into it knowing as little as possible to enjoy it as much as you can on an initial viewing. So mainly about that character kind of trying to navigate things. He does have a woman in his life who also gets involved, and they're looking into some things having to do with the deaths of a bunch of exorcists, all on the same day too, which is a very interesting thing to throw in immediately in a film to get people to kind of sit forward in their seats and be like, okay, this is different. And that's the thing. There are so many possession films out there, exorcism films out there, religious related horror films out there, and a lot of them feel so dull. They feel like they're the same. They feel cliche and like they're just borrowing from all these other films you've seen before, mainly going back to The Exorcist by William Friedkin. This one has those aspects to it, but it goes further and it does its own thing. And that's typically what I'm looking for films like this. I hate exorcism / possession films for the most part because they typically end up being so boring. This one breaks from that mold and it says, hey, we have something different that we want to do with this. And in that sense, I am down for these types of films that are in that genre. So anyway, continuing with my notes, the opening scene sets a nice creepy and foreboding feel to it. Really do like it. Like I said, it does a very good job of kind of getting its hooks into you and making you lean forward and say, okay, this doesn't seem like the typical type of film that it's representing in the beginning, and maybe, there will be something different to it, and there is. It definitely feels pretty low budget, like the look of it, including there's a decent amount of CGI in this one, and the CGI does not look very good. I'm going to be honest. But when you know going into it, like this is a very low budget film, you have to be very forgiving with the CGI. You can tell that these individuals involved with the film did what they could with the money that they had. You know, Shudder isn't giving out a ton of money, I guarantee it. Now, it is possible that they got a little bit of extra cash from their home country of Canada, because Canada is one of those countries that will invest in film projects from government money. I think that's still going on in Canada, at least. Someone can correct me or verify in the comments. But yeah, so it looks pretty low budget, but immediately it lets you know that there's going to be more to it than just like, oh, it's going to be this possession / exorcism super low budget film. I've seen things like this before. They're not that interesting. It hits you with some style immediately, and that's from a directorial standpoint. Peterson actually does a very nice job with getting some interesting shots, some really interesting framing that's going on, some cool cuts that he ends up doing with the film. It has style. It has a nice directorial aesthetic to it. Good cinematography with this film, even though it looks so low budget, which is something you typically don't see when a film looks this low budget. So, again, breaking from that mold. The main exorcist character seems complicated and interesting, and actually reminds me of a comic book that I read many years ago at this point called Outcast, which I believe there was a season on Max that they did for Outcast, and I think it only got, maybe it got 2 seasons, but I think it only got 1 season and then they canceled it. But the comic book is really interesting, and it's, you know, from the perspective of this exorcist who doesn't have your typical exorcist background story, and that's what this character felt like to me. It felt heavily inspired by that, but its own flavor at the same time. So maybe they had kind of read Outcast and are like, I want to do something like that, but I'm going to put my own twist on it so it doesn't feel like I'm just ripping it from this comic or the Max show, either way. So I love that. I love the fact that this is a very different type character. And again, like I said, they let you know that up front, and that's what really engaged me in the film. And that's another thing, is that the characters in general are interesting in this film. Main character is the most important for that. The cast does a pretty good job. It is a solid cast, especially for how low budget this film looks. Impressed that I didn't see a single performance that I was like, it's kind of shaky. Solid cast, really solid cast, and they played really well off of each other. The additional thing is that the writing is good with this film. Not only is the story good, but the dialogue is quite well written. The way these characters interact, it feels realistic for what's going on. And that's also, you know, the actors kind of putting their spin on it as well. They do a good job. They have good chemistry as well. The pacing is also quite good. This film is under an hour and a half. I think with credits, it's an hour and 27 minutes. So it's not like it's a super long film in the first place. And it doesn't feel super long. And that's great. They do a really good job just keeping things moving. It's consistently interesting. They don't languish too much on scenes that could have a tendency to get a little bit boring. There are a few of those moments where you feel like, maybe this scene's going a little bit too long. Mainly with the ending, I did feel like they kind of stretched the ending, which is decent. I felt like they stretched that out too much, in my opinion. Probably should have shaved that back a little bit, but regardless, it is still a decent ending, and it is also, overall, a pretty well-paced film. Like I said, especially for a lower-budget film like this. There's a lot more action in this film than I actually thought there would be, especially for how low budget it looks. Very surprised by that, and I like that. That's one of the things that helps drive the pacing of this film to be so good. Talked about the CGI, ending's decent. Okay, this is a film where the writing and directing outperforms the budget. It really does. This is one of those movies that you end up watching and you're like, wow, that was a nice surprise. Exceeded expectations based off it being a super low budget film. And can we get more money to these individuals? Get more money to Peterson and Cairo, have them work together again, and allow them the ability to make it look higher budget, because they'd have a higher budget, and see what they can do, because the story is there, the characters are there, the directing is there, the cinematography is there. I mean, come on. What more do you need to hear? Like, go watch this film right now. Now, don't expect it to be the most phenomenal thing ever. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But for what it is, pretty impressed with it. Good job, guys. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Shadow of God. You can let me know your thoughts if you've seen it. We can talk spoilers in the comments. Go ahead. If you want to support my channel, which it's very easy to do, you can subscribe to the channel. You can also put a thumbs up on this video. But if you want to get a little bit more serious, if you want to also see some of my vlog style short videos, I do have memberships available, which are linked in the description. Not a whole lot of money each month for some extra perks. You get videos early that you can watch, and then also there are, at the top tier, which I believe I set at $4.99 a month, you get exclusive videos that no one else will see. Only people at that tier, and they're like vlog style, kind of like more like my personal life types things, but if that interests you. Also, notification bell button, you can hit that if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos. But regardless, thank you very much for your time. Until next time, keep it brutal.